She was homeless, starving, and desperate, with a sick 7-year-old nephew who hadn't spoken a word in 4 months. Then one night, in a dark alley, she found a man bleeding to death. She could have walked away. Instead, she pressed her shirt against his wound and lied to the men hunting him. What she didn't know, he was one of the most powerful Yakuza bosses in the city, and that single act of kindness was about to flip her entire world upside down. Because the same dangerous world that nearly killed him, it was coming for her next. But here's the twist nobody saw coming, not even him. Subscribe now and tell me where you're watching from, because this story is about to take you places you never expected. The cold woke Aiko before the sun did. She blinked in the grey darkness, her body stiff against the concrete. The overpass above blocked most of the wind, but nothing could stop the chill that crept through the thin blanket wrapped around her and Haru. Her nephew pressed against her side. His small body burned with fever. Aiko touched his forehead gently. Too warm. Still too warm. She had found children's medicine 3 days ago in a half-empty bottle behind a pharmacy, but it was gone now, and Haru's fever kept climbing. "It's okay," she whispered, though he was still asleep. "I'll figure it out." She always said that. Sometimes she even believed it. The city stirred around them. Distant cars hummed on the highway above. Somewhere, a truck beeped as it reversed. Normal sounds of a normal world, a world that had forgotten them. Aiko sat up slowly, careful not to wake Haru. She studied his face in the dim light. 7 years old, dark hair falling across his closed eyes, lips slightly parted. He looked peaceful when he slept, almost like a regular kid. But Haru hadn't spoken in 4 months. Not since the night his mother died. Aiko's sister, Yuki, had been everything to him, and then she was gone. A car accident, quick and senseless and cruel. The police had called Aiko at work. She'd dropped the phone. Now it was just the two of them. No home, no family, no safety net. Aiko had lost her job 3 weeks after taking Haru in. Too many missed shifts, too many emergencies. Her landlord had given her 30 days. She'd stretched it to 45 before they ended up here. Under a bridge, in February. She pulled the blanket higher around Haru's shoulders. His breathing sounded rough, congested. "Today," she told herself quietly, "today, I'll find medicine." She had $17 in her pocket, enough for food or medicine, but not both. The math of survival was always simple and always brutal. Haru stirred. His eyes opened slowly, finding her face in the darkness. He didn't speak. He never did anymore, but his hand reached for hers. Aiko squeezed it. "Morning, buddy, how do you feel?" He pressed closer to her. That was answer enough. "We're going to have a good day," she said. "I promise." Empty promises. She made them anyway. What else could she do? She helped him sit up, checked his temperature again with her palm. Still burning. His eyes looked glassy. "Can you eat something?" He shook his head. "Just a little? I saved some crackers." He shook his head again, but she pulled the crackers from her bag anyway. 3 left. She handed him one. He held it without eating. The sun began to rise, painting the sky in pale orange. The city woke up around them. More cars, more noise, more people rushing to jobs and homes and lives that made sense. Aiko packed their few belongings, a change of clothes for each of them, the thin blanket, a water bottle, some food, her wallet with its $17, and a small photograph of Yuki, smiling in the summer sun. "Okay," she said, "let's go." Haru stood slowly. He swayed a little. She steadied him with her hand. They walked together through the waking city. Aiko kept to the back streets. She'd learned which areas were safer, which store owners might offer a kind word or a free coffee, which corners to avoid. Homeless shelters existed, but most were full, and some weren't safe for a woman alone with a child. So Aiko kept moving, kept searching, kept hoping for something better. The morning passed slowly. She found a church that offered free breakfast. Haru managed to eat some oatmeal. A volunteer gave Aiko a concerned look when she saw Haru's flushed cheeks. "Is he okay?" "Just a cold," Aiko said. "He'll be fine." She said it with confidence. She felt anything but. By afternoon, Haru was struggling to walk. His fever had spiked. Aiko carried him the last few blocks to a free clinic she'd heard about. The waiting room was packed. A woman at the front desk looked tired. "Do you have insurance?" she asked without looking up. "No." "Are you a resident of this county?" "We're between addresses right now." The woman finally looked at her, at Haru in her arms. Something flickered in her eyes. Pity, maybe, or just exhaustion. "I'm sorry," she said. "We're full today. You'll need to come back tomorrow." "He has a fever, a high one. Please, I understand, but we can only see so many patients. Policy." Aiko wanted to scream. She wanted to pound on the desk and demand help. But she'd learned that anger didn't solve anything. It just made people defensive. "Is there anywhere else?" she asked quietly. The woman shrugged. "The emergency room. But the wait is usually 6 or 7 hours, and without insurance—" She trailed off. They both knew what that meant. Bills Aiko couldn't pay. Debts that would follow her forever. "Thank you," Aiko said, because she'd also learned that politeness cost nothing. She carried Haru back outside. The sun was setting. The air grew colder. "I'm sorry, buddy," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." He pressed his hot face against her neck. His arms tightened around her. He didn't blame her. He never blamed her. That almost made it worse. She found a doorway in an alley, sheltered from the wind. She sat down with Haru in her lap. Tomorrow. She'd try the clinic again tomorrow. Tonight, she'd keep him warm. She'd pray his fever broke. It was all she could do. The night deepened. Haru slept fitfully. Aiko dozed, waking every few minutes to check on him. Her back ached against the hard wall. Her stomach growled. She'd given her dinner portion to Haru. Sometime after midnight, she heard a sound, a groan, low and pained, coming from deeper in the alley. Aiko froze. Her hand moved instinctively to Haru, pulling him closer. Another groan, then a wet cough. Someone was hurt. Every instinct told her to stay hidden. Mind your own business. Don't get involved. The streets taught hard lessons, and she'd learned them well. But she'd been a nursing aide before everything fell apart. 3 years of caring for people. The training lived in her bones. She couldn't ignore that sound. "Stay here," she breathed to Haru, though he was still asleep. She tucked the blanket around him and crept deeper into the alley. The darkness was thick. She could barely see, but she followed the sounds. Ragged breathing, a muffled curse, until she nearly tripped over him. A man, lying on the ground, one hand pressed against his side. Even in the shadows, she could see the blood. "Oh my God," she whispered. The man's head turned toward her. His eyes glinted in the faint light. Sharp, alert, dangerous. "Leave," he said. His voice was steady despite the blood. "Now." "You're hurt." "I said leave." "You're bleeding out." He laughed then, a dry, humorless sound. "Not yet." Aiko crouched beside him. Up close she could see him better. Dark hair, cut short, strong jaw, maybe mid-30s. He wore a suit, expensive from the look of it, now ruined with blood. His eyes watched her, measuring, calculating. Even wounded, he looked like someone used to being in control. "I was a nurse's aide," she said. "Let me look. You should run." Probably. She didn't run. Instead, she gently moved his hand aside and examined the wound. A cut along his ribs. Deep, but not fatal, if treated. "You need stitches," she said, "and antibiotics. I have people coming." "When?" He didn't answer. That was answer enough. "I don't have much," Aiko said, "but I can stop the bleeding, at least slow it down." She didn't wait for permission. She pulled off her outer shirt, an old flannel she'd gotten from a shelter donation bin, and folded it into a thick pad. "This will hurt," she warned. "I know." She pressed the fabric against the wound. He hissed, but didn't flinch. His self-control was almost unsettling. "Hold this here," she said, guiding his hand to the makeshift bandage. "Keep pressure on it." He did as she instructed. His eyes never left her face. "Why are you helping me?" "Because you're hurt." "That's not a reason. It's the only one I have." They stared at each other. Something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Two people who understood survival. Then Aiko heard footsteps, heavy, purposeful, coming closer. "Go," the man said urgently. "Take whoever you have hiding and go. Don't come back." "But now." The command in his voice left no room for argument. Aiko scrambled back to where Haru slept. She gathered him in her arms, grabbed their bag, and moved. She found another hiding spot 3 blocks away. Her heart pounded. Haru whimpered in his sleep, but didn't wake. She stayed awake all night, listening for footsteps that never came. By morning, she'd almost convinced herself it was a dream, but the blood on her hands was real. And somewhere in the city, A wounded man remembered her face. 3 days passed. Haru's fever finally broke on the second morning. Aiko wept with relief, silent tears rolling down her cheeks while he slept. She'd spent 2 of her precious $17 on children's medicine from a dollar store. The generic brand, probably expired, but it worked. Small miracles. She lived for them now. They moved twice, finding new spots to sleep. The alley where she'd found the wounded man felt too dangerous to stay near. She kept expecting those heavy footsteps to find her, to demand answers, to punish her for witnessing something she shouldn't have, but nobody came. On the third morning, Aiko woke to find something beside her bag. A paper sack, brown, unmarked. Her heart stopped. She looked around wildly. The street was empty. Early morning light filtered through the buildings. Nothing moved. With trembling hands, she opened the sack. Inside, a box of children's cold medicine. Real medicine, not the dollar store kind. Also crackers, cheese, apple juice boxes, Band-Aids, a small jar of peanut butter, and money. Aiko counted it twice, $300, cash. Her mind raced. Who would leave this? How did they find her? Was it a trap? At the bottom of the sack, her fingers touched something small and hard. She pulled it out. A token. Metal. The size of a quarter, but thicker. On one side, a dragon curled in on itself, its scales etched in fine detail. The other side was smooth except for a single symbol she didn't recognize. The wounded man. It had to be from him. Aiko stared at the token for a long time. Haru stirred beside her, waking slowly. His eyes found the food, and they widened. "Breakfast," Aiko said softly. "A good one." He reached for a juice box. She let him take it, watching him drink with small, grateful sips. "Who are you?" she thought, turning the dragon token over in her fingers. "And what do you want?" She couldn't keep the money. It felt wrong, dangerous, but the medicine... Haru coughed, a wet rattling sound that made her chest hurt. She kept the medicine, and the food. She told herself it was for Haru, that she'd find a way to pay it back somehow. The money she tucked deep into her bag. Emergency only, life or death. That night, sleeping in a new spot behind a closed restaurant, Aiko felt eyes on her. She scanned the shadows but saw nothing, just parked cars, empty sidewalks, a stray cat slinking between trash cans. Still, the feeling persisted. Someone was watching. She held Haru closer and didn't sleep until dawn. A week later, the watching became undeniable. They were never approached, never threatened. But Aiko noticed things. The same black car parked on different streets where she walked. A man in a dark coat standing at corners, then gone when she looked again. Small gifts appearing near wherever they slept. Blankets, food, a warm hat for Haru. Someone was protecting them. The realization should have frightened her. It did frighten her, but it also brought a strange comfort she was ashamed to feel. Haru noticed, too. He'd become more alert since his fever broke, more aware of their surroundings. One morning he tugged Aiko's sleeve and pointed at the black car. "I know," she said quietly. "I see it." He looked at her with those 2 old eyes, asking without words, "Should we be scared?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but they haven't hurt us, not yet." Haru considered this. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out the dragon token. Aiko hadn't realized he'd taken it. "You like that?" she asked. He nodded. His small fingers traced the dragon's curves. "Okay," she said. "You can keep it." He tucked it back into his pocket. For the first time in weeks, something like peace crossed his face. The clinic finally had room for them. A different volunteer worked the desk this time. Older, kinder. She looked at Haru's pale face and Aiko's exhausted eyes, and she didn't ask about insurance or addresses. "Come on back," she said simply. A doctor examined Haru. He'd developed a secondary infection from the cold. Nothing serious yet, but he needed antibiotics. "Do you have a pharmacy you can use?" the doctor asked. Aiko thought about the money in her bag. "Yes." "Good. Fill this prescription today, the full course. Don't stop even if he seems better." "I understand." The doctor paused, studied her face. "Are you okay? You look exhausted." "I'm fine." A lie. But what could anyone do? What could she possibly explain? She thanked the doctor and took Haru back to the waiting room. That's when she saw him. He stood outside the clinic's glass doors. Tall, still, watching. The wounded man from the alley. He looked different in daylight. Healthy. the paleness gone from his face. He wore a dark coat over a simple black shirt. No suit this time, but those sharp eyes were the same, calculating, missing nothing. Aiko's breath caught. He made no move to enter, just waited, patient as stone. She could leave through the back, disappear into the city, lose herself in crowds and alleys, but she was tired of running, tired of not knowing. "Wait here," she told Haru, settling him in a chair near the volunteer desk. "I'll be right back." He grabbed her sleeve. Fear flickered in his eyes. 2 minutes, she promised. "I just need to talk to someone. You can see me through the window the whole time." He released her slowly. She squeezed his hand, then walked outside. The man didn't move as she approached. Up close, she noticed more details. A faint scar along his jaw, hands that looked strong but weren't threatening, an unreadable expression that might have been curiosity. "You've been following us," Aiko said. No greeting, no pretense. "Yes." His honesty surprised her. She'd expected denial or deflection. "Why?" "You helped me." "So you leave gifts? Like we're stray cats you've adopted?" Something flickered in his eyes, almost amusement. "You're angry. I'm confused. There's a difference." "Is there?" Aiko crossed her arms. "Who are you?" He considered the question. "My name is Kenji Takahara." The name meant nothing to her, but the way he said it, like it should mean something, made her uneasy. "What do you want, Kenji Takahara?" "To repay a debt. You left money, $300. Consider it repaid." "That's not how debts work in my world." His world. The phrase hung between them. "I'm not part of your world," Aiko said carefully. "No, you're not." He paused. "But you saved my life. That creates obligations." "I pressed a shirt against a cut. That's not saving a life. The men looking for me that night would have finished what they started. You bought me time. You lied to protect me when they searched." His eyes held hers. "I heard you tell them you hadn't seen anyone. That took courage." Aiko remembered that moment, the heavy footsteps approaching, rough voices demanding answers. She'd claimed ignorance, heart pounding, praying they'd believe her. Anyone would have done the same. "No," Kenji said simply. "They wouldn't." She didn't know how to respond. The certainty in his voice left no room for argument. Through the clinic window, she saw Haru watching them, his small face pressed against the glass. In his hands, the dragon token caught the light. Kenji noticed. His expression shifted, softened in a way that transformed him. "The boy," he said quietly. "He's yours?" "My nephew. He's sick. He's getting better." Kenji nodded. Something passed across his face. Grief, maybe, quickly hidden. "You're living on the streets," he said. Not a question. "That's none of your business." "Perhaps not." He reached into his coat and produced a card, plain white, a phone number printed in black, nothing else. "If you need help, anything at all." Aiko didn't take it. "I don't need charity." "It's not charity, it's balance. I don't understand your world or your rules." "I know." He set the card on a nearby ledge. "But the offer stands. No obligations, no expectations, just help, if you need it." He turned and walked toward the black car parked down the street. The door opened as he approached. Someone inside waiting for him. "Why do you care?" Aiko called after him. He stopped, looked back. For a moment, his careful mask slipped, and she saw exhaustion, loneliness, a pain that mirrored her own. "Because kindness shouldn't go unanswered," he said, "even in my world." Then he was gone. Aiko stood alone on the sidewalk. The card sat on the ledge, bright white against grey concrete. She picked it up. That night, in a sheltered doorway, Haru fell asleep clutching the dragon token. His breathing sounded better. The antibiotics were working. Aiko sat beside him, staring at the card in her hand. Kenji Takahara. She should throw it away. Forget him. Stay far from whatever darkness surrounded him. But something in his eyes had reminded her of herself. That same weariness, that same determination to keep moving forward, despite everything. She tucked the card into her pocket, just in case. 2 weeks later, everything changed. Aiko noticed them on a Tuesday morning. 2 men in leather jackets standing at the corner near the shelter where she'd stopped to get coffee. They weren't looking at the shelter. They were looking at her. When she moved, they moved. When she stopped, they stopped. Her stomach dropped. This was different from Kenji's quiet protection. These men weren't hiding. They wanted her to see them. "Come on, buddy," she said to Haru, keeping her voice calm. Let's go somewhere else. She walked faster, took random turns, ducked through a busy market, but every time she glanced back, the men were there. Closer now. Haru sensed her fear. His hand tightened on hers. His eyes went wide and glassy. It's okay, she lied. We're okay. They weren't okay. She led them into a department store, weaving through racks of clothes, past confused shoppers. There had to be a back exit. Every store had one. But when she found it, a third man stood waiting outside. He smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Aiko backed away, pulling Haru with her. Her mind raced. Scream? Call for help? But who would come? Who would believe a homeless woman being chased by men in nice jackets? She reached for the phone in her pocket. Old, cracked screen, barely functional, but it worked. The card was still in her wallet. She'd looked at it every night for 2 weeks without calling. Now her fingers moved on their own, dialing the number. 1 ring. The men entered the store behind her. 2 rings. They spread out, blocking the exits. 3 rings. Yes? Kenji's voice, calm, steady. It's Aiko, the woman from the alley. Her voice shook. There are men following me, 3 of them. I'm at the department store on 5th Street. I don't know what to do. Silence. 1 heartbeat. 2. Stay where you are. Don't confront them. I'm coming. The line went dead. Aiko pulled Haru behind a display of winter coats. They crouched there, hidden but trapped. Through gaps in the fabric, she watched the men search the aisles. Minutes passed. Each one felt like an hour. Haru pressed against her, shaking. She held him tight, one hand over his mouth to muffle his breathing. Please, she thought, please hurry. Then the store's main doors opened, and everything shifted. Kenji entered first. Behind him came 4 men in dark suits. They moved like water, smooth, silent, coordinated. The 3 men in leather jackets saw them and froze. Kenji said something too quiet for Aiko to hear. His face showed nothing, just cold, absolute calm. One of the leather jacket men tried to argue. Kenji raised his hand. Just that. A simple gesture. And the man stopped talking. More words exchanged. The tension in the air was thick enough to choke on. Then, just like that, the 3 men left. They walked past Kenji with their heads down. They didn't look back. They moved like men who had received a warning they couldn't ignore. Aiko stayed hidden, trembling, until Kenji appeared beside the coat display. It's safe now, he said softly. You can come out. She stood on shaking legs. Haru clung to her, his face buried in her jacket. Who were they? She demanded. What did they want? Associates of someone who wants to hurt me. Kenji's jaw tightened. They were looking for leverage. They found out I've been watching over you. The words hit her like cold water. Leverage. They wanted to use her against him, a man she barely knew. This is because of you. Yes. He didn't make excuses, didn't try to soften it. So, helping you that night? It put us in danger? Yes. Aiko wanted to scream, to hit him, to demand answers that would make sense of this nightmare. Instead, she looked at Haru. His small body shook with silent sobs. Fear had broken something in him again. This can't happen again, she said. He can't live like this. I know. Kenji's voice was heavy. That's why I need you to come with me. Just temporarily, until I can resolve this situation. Come where? My home. It's secure. No one can touch you there. Your home? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. And now you want me to... I'm asking you to let me protect you. Nothing more. Why should I trust you? Kenji looked at Haru. Something in his face changed, softened. Because that boy is holding onto my token like it's a lifeline, and because you called me instead of the police. He met her eyes. You already trust me. You just don't want to admit it. He was right. She hated that he was right. How long? She asked. A few weeks, maybe less, just until the situation is handled. And then? Then you're free to go, with money, with help finding a real home, whatever you need. Aiko closed her eyes. Every instinct screamed to refuse, to take Haru and run as far as possible from this man and his dangerous world. But where would they run? Back to the streets? Back to hunger and cold and fear? She looked at Haru. He'd stopped crying. His eyes were fixed on Kenji with something that might have been hope. Okay, she said quietly, but we stay together. Me and Haru. Always. Of course. And I'm not one of your people. I don't follow orders. Something like respect flickered in Kenji's eyes. Understood. He led them outside to the black car. One of his men opened the door. The interior was warm. Soft leather seats. Silence. Haru climbed in first. He sat in the middle, still clutching the dragon token. After a moment, he reached out and touched the seat with something like wonder. Aiko sat beside him. Kenji took the seat across from them. The car pulled away from the curb, and her old life disappeared in the rearview mirror. Kenji's home was nothing like she expected. She'd imagined something cold, modern, full of sharp edges and dangerous men. Instead, the car passed through iron gates and stopped before a traditional Japanese-style estate. Low buildings with curved roofs, carefully arranged gardens, stone pathways winding between trees. It looked like peace, like something from a dream. An older woman waited at the main entrance, silver hair pinned back, sharp eyes that assessed everything. "This is Madame Shizue," Kenji said. "She manages the household. If you need anything, ask her." Madame Shizue bowed slightly. Her expression was neutral, reserved. "Welcome," she said. The word was polite but not warm. Haru pressed closer to Aiko. She put a protective hand on his shoulder. "Thank you," Aiko said carefully. "We appreciate your hospitality." Madame Shizue's eyes flickered to Haru. Something shifted in her face, a crack in the reserve. "The boy is tired," she observed. "I'll prepare rooms." She turned and walked inside. Aiko followed, guiding Haru. The interior was simple but elegant. Wood floors polished to a shine, paper screens, the smell of green tea drifting from somewhere. Their rooms connected through a shared sitting area. Futons, soft blankets, a window overlooking the garden. "You'll be safe here," Kenji said from the doorway. "My men patrol the grounds constantly. No one enters without permission." Aiko nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. Kenji hesitated. His careful mask slipped for just a moment. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "for putting you in danger. I never intended—" "I know." He blinked, surprised by her interruption. "I know you didn't mean for this to happen," she continued. "I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Story of my life, honestly." The ghost of a smile crossed his face. "You have a habit of finding trouble, or it finds me." They looked at each other. The moment stretched. Then Kenji straightened, the mask sliding back into place. "Rest tonight. Tomorrow we can discuss the situation more fully. If you need anything, ask Madame Shizue, I remember." He nodded once and left. Aiko stood alone in the quiet room. Outside, twilight painted the garden in shades of purple and gold. Somewhere a bird sang. Haru tugged her sleeve. He pointed at the futon, then at his own tired eyes. "Yeah," she agreed. "Sleep sounds good." She helped him change into clean clothes Madame Shizue had left. Soft cotton. They smelled like lavender. Haru crawled under the blankets. For the first time in months he looked comfortable, safe. Aiko lay beside him, staring at the ceiling. Her mind raced with questions she couldn't answer. Who was Kenji really? What world had she stepped into? Would they survive it? She had no answers. Only hope, fragile and stubborn, that somehow things would be okay. Haru's breathing slowed. He slept deeply, peacefully. Aiko watched him for a long time. Then finally, she slept too. Days passed, then weeks. Slowly, impossibly, Aiko began to feel something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Safe. The estate had rhythms. Breakfast at 7, lunch at noon, dinner at 6. Madame Shizue ran everything with quiet efficiency, and slowly her reserve toward Aiko began to thaw. "You cooked professionally?" Madame Shizue asked one morning, watching Aiko help in the kitchen. "No, just learned from my mother. She believed food was love." The older woman nodded. "Wise woman." After that, they cooked together sometimes. Simple meals, comfortable silences. Haru changed the most. He began exploring the gardens, following the stone pathways, watching the koi fish in the pond with something like wonder. The fear in his eyes faded, replaced by curiosity. And then there was Kenji. He ate breakfast with them sometimes, sat in the garden when Haru played nearby, asked quiet questions about their day. He never pushed, never demanded, just existed in their orbit, steady and patient. One evening, Aiko found Haru sitting beside Kenji on the garden bench. They weren't talking. Haru still didn't speak, but they sat together, watching the sunset. Kenji was pointing at the sky, explaining something about the colors. Haru listened intently, nodding along. Something in Aiko's chest ached at the sight. "He likes you," she said later, after Haru was asleep. Kenji looked up from the book he was reading. He's a good boy. He doesn't trust easily, not anymore. Neither do I. The words hung between them, an admission, an opening. Why did you help us? Aiko asked. Really? Kenji closed his book. For a long moment he didn't answer. Then he said, I had a son. Once. The words fell like stones into still water. Had. He died. 2 years ago. He was 5. Kenji's voice stayed level, but his eyes betrayed him. His mother died too. A car accident. Aiko's breath caught. I'm so sorry. Haru reminds me of him. The way he watches the world. Quietly. Carefully. Kenji looked at her. I couldn't save my son, but maybe I can help yours. He's my nephew, but you're his family now. The only family he has. Aiko nodded slowly. Understanding settled between them. 2 people carrying grief like armor. 2 people trying to protect what remained. Thank you, she said softly. Don't thank me yet. The danger isn't over. I know. She met his eyes. But right now, in this moment, he's happy. That's more than I could give him before. Kenji's mask cracked again. Just slightly. Just enough for her to see the man beneath. He's not the only one who deserves happiness, he said. Aiko didn't know how to respond, so she said nothing. Just sat beside him in the quiet garden while stars appeared one by one overhead. It felt, she realized, like belonging, and that terrified her more than anything. The peace shattered on a Thursday afternoon. Aiko was in the garden with Haru, watching him feed the koi fish. He'd developed a routine, 3 pellets for the orange one, 2 for the white, 1 for the spotted fish he'd silently named by pointing at it every morning. Simple moments, precious ones. Then Kenji appeared at the garden gate. His face was stone. Behind him stood Ryo, his second in command, speaking rapidly into a phone. Inside, Kenji said. Now. Aiko didn't argue. She scooped Haru into her arms and followed. The main house buzzed with tension. Men moved through hallways with purpose. Madame Shizue stood at the kitchen entrance, her face pale but composed. What's happening? Aiko demanded. Kenji guided them to an interior room. No windows, thick walls. He closed the door behind them. Daichi Kuroda. The name came out hard, bitter. My rival. He's been patient until now. Watching, waiting. But today his men crossed a line. What line? They tried to breach the outer perimeter. Kenji's jaw clenched. Looking for you. The blood drained from Aiko's face. For me? Why? Because hurting you would hurt me. And Daichi understands that now. He met her eyes. I've tried to keep my distance. Tried not to let my feelings show. But apparently I failed. Feelings. The word hung in the air between them. Kenji, not now. His voice was gentle but firm. Right now, I need you to stay here. Both of you. Don't leave this room until I come back. Where are you going? To end this. Fear seized her chest. You can't just... What if something happens to you? Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or hope. Would that matter to you? The question was quiet. Vulnerable. So different from the controlled man she'd first met. Yes, she admitted. It would matter. He reached out. His hand touched her cheek. Just briefly. Just gently. Then he pulled back. Stay safe, he said. I'll return. I promise. Then he was gone. The hours crawled by. Haru sat in Aiko's lap, clutching the dragon token. His silence felt heavier now, weighted with fear he couldn't express. Madame Shizue brought them food, tea, blankets. She stayed for a while, sitting quietly in the corner, her presence oddly comforting. He's done this before, the older woman said softly. Faced danger, handled threats. He always comes back. Always? So far. It wasn't reassuring, but it was honest. Aiko appreciated that. Tell me about him, she said. Before, when his wife and son were alive. Madame Shizue's hands stilled on her teacup. For a long moment, she didn't speak. He was different, she finally said. Lighter. He laughed more. Played with his son in this very garden. She paused. When they died, something in him died too. He became cold, distant, focused only on duty. And now? Now? Madame Shizue looked at Haru, at Aiko. Now I see glimpses of who he used to be, because of you. Aiko shook her head. I haven't done anything. You've done everything. The older woman's voice was fierce. You reminded him that life continues, that love is possible, even after loss. Love. There was that word again. Aiko looked at Haru. His eyes were closed now, exhausted by fear. His small fingers still gripped the token. She thought about the past weeks. Breakfast together, quiet evenings, the way Kenji's face softened when he watched Haru play, the way her own heart raced whenever he entered a room. She'd been so focused on survival, on protecting Haru, on not getting hurt. She hadn't noticed herself falling, but she had. Somewhere between the danger and the peace, between the fear and the safety, she'd fallen for a man she barely understood. A Yakuza boss, a grieving father, a man who killed enemies and fed koi fish with equal calm. It was ridiculous, impossible, dangerous. And yet, dawn came. Aiko had dozed fitfully, jerking awake at every sound. Haru slept deeply, curled against her side. Then footsteps approached. The door opened. Kenji stood in the entrance. His coat was torn. A bruise darkened his jaw, but he was alive. "It's over," he said quietly. "Daiichi is no longer a threat." Aiko didn't ask what that meant. She didn't want to know. She stood carefully, not waking Haru. Crossed the room, stopped in front of Kenji. "You're hurt." "It's nothing." "It's not nothing." She touched the bruise gently. He winced but didn't pull away. "You scared me." "I know, I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry, just—" She trailed off. What could she possibly ask him? "Don't risk your life. Don't be who you are." "Just what?" he prompted. "Just come back. Every time. Promise me." His eyes searched her face. Whatever he found there made his expression shift. "Soften." "I promise," he said. She didn't know who moved first. Maybe they both did. But suddenly his arms were around her, and her face was pressed against his chest, and nothing else mattered. He held her carefully, like she was precious, like she was home. "I was afraid," he admitted against her hair. "Not of Daiichi, not of the fight. I was afraid I wouldn't see you again. I was afraid too. You shouldn't be here." His voice was rough. "You shouldn't be part of this world. It's dangerous, ugly, wrong. Maybe you should take Haru and leave. Start over somewhere safe." "Probably. So why won't you?" She pulled back to look at him. His eyes were raw, open, terrified. "Because I'm tired of running," she said simply. "Because Haru is happy here. Because—" She took a breath. "Because I think I'm falling in love with you. And that scares me more than anything in your world ever could." The words hung between them. Honest, vulnerable, irreversible. Kenji stared at her. For a heartbeat, she thought she'd made a terrible mistake. Then he kissed her. It was soft, gentle, a question rather than a demand. His hands cupped her face like she was something sacred. When they finally broke apart, they were both trembling. "I don't deserve this," he whispered. "I don't deserve you." "Maybe not," she smiled through tears. "But I'm choosing you anyway." The weeks that followed were quiet. Daiichi's organization scattered after his defeat. Kenji's position strengthened. The danger faded into memory. Life at the estate settled into new rhythms. Aiko stopped sleeping in the guest room. She moved into Kenji's quarters, separate futons at first, then slowly closer together, then finally just one. Haru bloomed like a flower finding sunlight. He started drawing. Madame Shizue bought him crayons and paper, and he filled pages with gardens and koi fish and dragons. Always dragons. He followed Kenji everywhere, helping in the garden, sitting beside him during meals, learning to tie traditional knots from Rio, who turned out to have infinite patience. And then, one ordinary evening, something extraordinary happened. They were eating dinner together. Kenji, Aiko, Haru, Madame Shizue. Simple food, comfortable silence. Haru reached for the rice, then stopped, looked at Kenji, and spoke. "More, please." 2 words. Soft, rusty from disuse. The room froze. Aiko's chopsticks clattered to the table. Tears sprang to her eyes instantly. Kenji looked at Haru with something like wonder. "Of course," he said calmly, passing the bowl. "As much as you want." Haru took more rice, ate it, then looked at Aiko. "Don't cry," he said. 3 more words. A complete sentence. She laughed through her tears. "I'm crying because I'm happy, buddy. So happy." Haru considered this, then nodded, as if it made sense. He went back to eating, casual, like he hadn't just performed a miracle. Under the table, Kenji's hand found Aiko's. He squeezed gently. She squeezed back. 3 months later, Kenji asked her a question. They were in the garden. Evening light painted everything gold. Haru was chasing fireflies near the pond. his laughter ringing through the air. Laughter. Aiko still couldn't believe that sound. Every time she heard it, her heart swelled. "I want to ask you something," Kenji said. "Okay." He turned to face her. His usual composure was gone. He looked nervous, almost shy. "I know my world is dangerous. I know I'm not the kind of man you imagined spending your life with. I know there are 1,000 reasons you should say no. Kenji, let me finish." He took her hands. "But I love you. I love the way you challenge me, the way you care for Haru, the way you've made this house feel like a home again." He paused. "I want to build a future with you, not as your protector, not as your provider, as your partner, your equal, your husband, if you'll have me." Aiko's breath caught. "I'm not asking you to become someone you're not," he continued. "I'm asking you to let me become someone better, with you, for Haru, for whatever family we create together." She stared at him. This man who had started as a stranger, bleeding in an alley. This man who had protected her without asking anything in return. This man who had shown her that strength could be gentle, that power could be kind. "Yes," she said. He blinked. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll build a future with you. Yes to all of it." She smiled. Was that unclear? He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was rusty, unused, beautiful. Then he pulled her close and kissed her under the fading light. Across the garden, Haru noticed. He stopped chasing fireflies, watched them for a moment. Then he ran over and crashed into their legs, demanding to be included. Kenji lifted him up. The three of them stood together, tangled and laughing and whole. "We're a family now," Haru announced. His voice was stronger every day. "Yeah," Aiko agreed, her throat tight with joy. "We really are." 1 year later. The estate buzzed with quiet activity. Madame Shizue directed the staff with military precision. Rio stood guard at the entrance, looking uncomfortable in formal clothes. In her room, Aiko stared at her reflection. The dress was simple, white silk, elegant, but not excessive, exactly what she would have chosen. She still couldn't believe this was her life. A knock at the door. Haru's face appeared. "You look pretty," he said. "Thanks, buddy." She bent down to his level. "You look pretty handsome yourself." He wore a tiny suit. His hair was actually combed. In his pocket, the dragon token bulged. He never went anywhere without it. "Are you nervous?" he asked. "A little, are you?" He shook his head. "Kenji said we're already a family. This is just making it official." She smiled. "He's right. I know. He's smart." Haru took her hand. "Come on. Everyone's waiting." She let him lead her through the estate, past the kitchen where Madame Shizue paused to wipe her eyes, past the garden where they'd shared so many evenings, to the small clearing where their guests had gathered. Not many people, just the household, a few trusted allies, the family they'd built together, and Kenji. He stood at the end of the aisle, waiting. When he saw her, his whole face changed. The mask dropped completely. What remained was pure love, pure hope, pure home. Aiko walked toward him, Haru still holding her hand. When she reached the altar, Kenji took her other hand. His eyes glistened. "You came," he whispered. "I'll always come back to you," she whispered back. "I promise." The ceremony was simple. Traditional vows, quiet promises. When it was over, Haru insisted on being part of the first dance, so they danced together, all three of them, clumsy and laughing and perfect. Around them the sun set over the garden. The koi pond sparkled. Fireflies began their evening dance, and Aiko realized something. She'd spent so long surviving, fighting, running. She'd forgotten what it felt like to truly live. But now she remembered. Living felt like this, like warmth and safety and love that didn't demand anything in return, like a home you'd earned and a family you'd chosen, like hope that had finally stopped being fragile. She looked at Kenji, at Haru, at the life they'd built from the ashes of their separate griefs. "Thank you," she said softly. Kenji smiled. "For what? For finding me, for choosing me, for this." He pulled her closer, pressed a kiss to her forehead. "You found me first," he reminded her, "in that alley, bleeding, alone. You could have walked away, but you didn't. I was a nurse's aide. Helping people was my job." "No," he shook his head. "Kindness was your choice. It always is." She thought about that, about the choice she'd made that night, a small act of compassion for a stranger in need. It had changed everything. It had brought her here. "We should get back to our guests," she said. "Probably." Neither of them moved. Haru tugged their hands. "Cake now?" They laughed. Some things never changed. "Cake now," Aiko agreed. Together, hand in hand, the three of them walked toward their future. Behind them, the dragon token caught the last light of day. Ahead of them, the first stars of evening began to shine. And somewhere Aiko knew her sister was smiling.